For centuries, India's wood-shaped empires, but its legacy was buried. From grand palaces to mighty ships, the world depended on Indian timber. Why was this history erased?
2000 years back, the Roman Empire had acquired political control over large parts of West Asia. Romans had also started trading directly on Indian shores. As a consequence, the Arabs lost their trading monopolies on a long list of precious Indian exports, except for two products, where the Arabs desperately held on to their monopolies. The first one was pepper. That is not surprising, but it is the second category that comes as the real shocker: wood exports from India. Namaskar, my name is Ajay Sharma. Welcome to a new episode of the Kafirnama. In this episode, we try to bring to life the long forgotten story of India's wood exports to different civilizations in Asia and to Europe for 5,000 years. Let us start our journey with teak wood. Indian teak was exported from the Indus Valley to the Sumerian civilization as early as 3000 BC. Sumerian clay tablets record the shipping of Indian silk to Babylon via the Persian Gulf. There are no records post the collapse of the Sumerian and the Indus Valley civilizations. Our next piece of historical evidence comes 2400 years later. The discovery of Indian teak from the ruins of the moon god temple at Ur that was rebuilt sometime around 600 BC. In 515 BC, Darius the Great of the Persian Empire set about building a grand palace for himself. It eventually took 25 years to complete. The inscription on the ruins of Darius's palace states that it was entirely built of Indian teak bought from the neighboring Gandhar Janpad. Darius was not the first Persian king to use Indian teak. A few decades earlier, Sasanian king Khusro had built his palace at Ctesiphon, where he had extensively used beams made from Indian teak. When the ruins of Khusro's palace were excavated, the teak beams had not decayed, even after 1400 years. It was this hardiness of Indian teak that made it a hot favorite among builders, not just to make iconic structures, but also for making ships that lasted decades, even centuries. In the 10th century AD, sea trade took off in West Asia when the Arabs invented a simple but very effective navigational device called the kamal or the kashaba that could help sailors to determine latitude. As a consequence, shipbuilding activity increased significantly, and as a result, Indian teak exports to West Asia also jumped up. Al-Masudi in the 10th century wrote about huge quantities of Indian teak shipped to Iraq and Egypt. 2 centuries later, Arab traveler Zubair wrote about Indian teak shipped to West Asia. By the 16th century, Indian teak was an extremely important import for the Arabs and the Turks, to the extent that it alarmed the Europeans. In 1597, the King of Portugal instructed his officials in Goa to ensure that Turks could not export any teak from Burma. Was teak the only Indian wood exported globally? Well, in terms of tonnages, it was probably number one on the list. But a small incident from history demonstrates that other Indian woods were equally popular among the global elite. When Alauddin Khilji took over as the Sultan of Delhi in 1296, he sent teak, ebony and sandalwood as his coronation gifts to the king of Persia. Indian woods as regal gifts should not surprise us. 1200 years earlier, when Roman sailors landed in Bharuch, ebony wood, teak wood and sandalwood were top on the list of purchases. Ebony was in great demand in ancient Rome. It was even more sought after for making expensive furniture than even teak. And what about sandalwood? Sandalwood was used in ancient Rome for making medicine and fragrances, as also for religious purposes. However, sandalwood's history in global trade goes back at least 1000 years earlier than its use in ancient Rome. Biblical records mention King Solomon receiving sandalwood specially procured for him by Phoenician trading fleets. Greek historian Herodotus spoke about the use of sandalwood for embalming Egyptian pharaohs. There is no scientific confirmation as yet on the use of sandalwood in ancient Egypt, but a small piece of related information indicates that Herodotus may well be right. It is scientifically confirmed that fragments of pepper were found inside the nostrils of the mummy of Ramesses II, probably the greatest of all Egyptian pharaohs. It would not be wrong to conclude that wherever Indian spices went, so also did Indian woods, right through history. If you like this episode, please do like it and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to our channel Kafirnama so that you get regular notifications on new episodes on India's economic history. Jai Bharat!